From Springtide Research Institute, this is 13 to 25, a podcast where we explore how young people ages 13 to 25 grow into identity, spirituality, and well-being. Through research and real conversations, we hear directly from youth and young adults, as well as the experts and practitioners who walk alongside them. We're here to share lived experiences, big questions, and hopeful insights into what it means to support emerging generations today. In the between of being and becoming, this is 13 to 25.
Hello, everyone. This is another episode in our new season for 13 to 25. I'm Marte Aboagye, the head of engagement at Springtide, and so excited to be talking to two more Springtide ambassadors today. They are coming from different parts of the U.S., different ages and stages of life, but they're each going to be sharing about an organization that has been really key, an organization or maybe a group, a club. Who knows? I don't even know the examples they're going to share yet, but they're going to each share some place or group that's been really significant to them through this current season of life or maybe a recent season of life, and why. Why has that org or group really impacted them? Because Springtide is studying all about organizational involvement throughout 2025. So our Springtide ambassadors help bring our research to life in so many ways. And certainly the podcast conversations are one of those key aspects. So let's hear from the two guests we have with us today. If you could introduce yourselves.
My name is May. I'm 17 years old from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And a hobby that I have, I really love to make matcha with like the whole setup, like the whisk, the bowl, the scoop, and all of that. I'm kind of a connoisseur, I'd say, at that. I also love to travel, and I really like design, specifically in fashion.
So cool, May. Oh, I love all those passions you highlighted. So for matcha, I'm guessing you do like a hand whisk. You're not doing one of those electric ones, right? Is the electric one cheating a little bit?
Yeah, that's what I think personally. But
so you're a matcha drinker already, in high school. How did it start? Like, how young were you when you started getting into matcha?
To be honest, my mom started drinking it when I was pretty young. Like when I was in fourth grade, I remember I was in the backseat of her car and she handed me this green drink and she was like, I don't want to finish this. And I was like, what is this? And then I drank it and I was like, this is so good. But then
you liked it already.
Yes,
okay.
But then I didn't actually start making it myself until I was in around 7th grade.
Okay.
And then I started using the electric whisk, which it like changes the taste a little bit. And then 8th grade, I got the whole set for my cousin Davin for Christmas. And that started a big snowball to now.
I love matcha myself, but I don't have the whole setup. So you're inspiring me a little bit. Maybe I should really invest and curate this art, the art form of it even. So cool to hear all of that. Really glad to have you here, May. We'll have our next guest introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Nicole. My pronouns are they, them. I'm 23 and based in Washington, D.C., but I'm originally from New York. I studied political science, and I'm now a program assistant at a nonprofit focused on bridging divides and preventing political violence. And as far as my hobbies, I love music. I love going to concerts. I'm actually headed up to Baltimore tomorrow for another concert. And Martin knows, last time we talked, I was also headed up to Baltimore for a concert.
That is true.
And
yes.
I miss matcha so bad. I can't drink caffeine anymore, and it's the only thing I haven't found like a good alternative for. It's so good.
That's a bummer. Yes. Otherwise, you're probably salivating a little bit, like for something you can't quite have, as we're talking about matcha already at the intro. It's so cool having you in SAP, Nicole, because you bring this expertise, because a lot of the conversations we're having in SAP, I know you're having in your own professional work, but you also bring this level of humility, because you're not like, hey, I'm 23. I got all of this figured out. I'm already having these types of conversations every day. In our program in SAP, we are talking to young teenagers as well as people that are young professionals. And there's so much life that happens between those, so many key formative stages. that Springtide is covering with 13 to 25, that it's already a really unique mix to be hanging out in a Zoom space once a month with high schoolers, with college students, with young professionals. So I just appreciate who you are, Nicole. I want to give you a public shout out, basically, for the ways that you show up in the world and in SAP.
Thank you.
This is going to be a fun conversation, I know. So, Nicole, we're going to have you share your organization first. But before we get to that, I want to know how both of you, May and Nicole, how would you describe your own personality? If it helps, you could think about how your friends might describe your personality, but just give us a few words of who you are.
I would say I'm definitely a very outgoing person. I'm also very perceptive of, I think, emotions of other people, of situations, and of what's going on around me. I think I'm very creative, and I'm a huge romantic too.
What a great, well-rounded description. This is awesome. Nicole, what would you say, or what would your friends say?
I thought about this in like the context of how my friends would think me. I think thoughtful, and I tend to be the friend that like you go to for advice, or if you want like an honest opinion about something.
That's awesome. Just that, you're trustworthy. You're a go-to person. So we know organizations want all sorts of young people involved. Leadership comes in a lot of different forms. The examples you're bringing, you might even not necessarily be in a leadership role, but I just want to honor the different personality types that connect in different ways to groups and how they're all needed. So thank you for getting us started with that. Nicole, what organization, group, etc. do you want to lift up? Tell us all about it. Give us the details of how you first got involved and what keeps you coming.
Yeah. So I'm going to be highlighting the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington. They're a local nonprofit down here representing 11 different faith communities in the DMV, which is for non-DMV residents, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. They engage in interfaith community programming and also like training about different religious groups. And I'll get a little bit more into the programming side in a bit because that's kind of like the bread and butter. And I usually help out with their Unity Walk annually, which is they have an event down here in DC on Massachusetts Avenue. They have all these different houses of worship within like a 1 mile stretch of road. So there's a synagogue, there's Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox churches, a Sikh Gurdwara. Like it's really stacked. So every year the Unity Walk takes like hundreds of participants just on a walking tour of all these different houses of worship. They all open their doors. They have tours going on, individual programming at all the different sites. And it's just a really, really awesome event. I usually show up as a volunteer and then I'll participate as a walker after my responsibilities are done. I started there. Initially, I was an intern in the summer of 2023 after I was recommended by another AU student. At the time, I was Christian. I'm not anymore. More on that later. I was really passionate about interfaith work, so it was like kind of a perfect fit. So I helped that year with outreach and planning for the Unity Walk and got to participate as well. And, even though I'm, no longer like working for them as an intern or anything, I always come back every year to help volunteer. I always bring my parents. I have some really awesome memories of bringing both my parents in different years to the Unity Walk.
Oh, it's so rad. I love your passion for interfaith work. I share that passion with you. And the fact that even when it's like, you're not required to be there, you're not officially interning, like you said, you're still showing up. So it's clearly something that keeps you invested in the mission and what they're doing. How many walks have you been on?
2023 and 2024. 2, and then 2025. I just actually got my tickets this morning. So it'll be 3 years.
That's so cool. So I'm wondering if you have a favorite memory. Like the walk itself is a favorite memory, but is there like a moment, a realization you had, a connection that was made through the org itself, through this interfaith group, or through the walk that you just want to lift up as a key moment that stands out to you?
Thinking about memories, bringing my dad last year was a really cherished one. He was just like so full of like energy and curiosity and gratitude about it. He'd never been to a mosque or a Sikh Gurdwara, and I don't even know if he'd been to a synagogue before. And I specifically remember, actually, two memories in particular stick out about when I brought him. The first was we were at the Gurdwara, and on the top level, there was a woman who was like kind of just doing like an AMA, like with audience members. And there were like
Ask
two
me anything,
staircases.
in case people don't know the acronym. Yes.
Like ask me anything. And there were two staircases that like lead up to the upstairs area. So my dad goes downstairs and I just hear his voice like echoing from below. He's like, wow, this is incredible. Like I've never been to a Gurdwara before. Like he was so like rapt with like attention and like interest in it. It was awesome. And then we ended up, the last site at the Unity Walk is the Islamic Center of DC. And they have this bulletin board that lists like the 5 pillars of Islam. And I have a really awesome picture of him just like intently reading it. It was just awesome. He still talks about it. And he's like, man, that was so awesome. I can't wait to go back. And it like really brings me a lot of joy to be able to do that with both my parents. But it was particularly special experience with my dad that year.
I love it. We are a fan always of a good like multi-generational connection, but when it's in your own family, something that has become so dear to you that you actually get to share it with your parents and see them take on a posture of being learners in these spaces is so powerful. I'm glad you described that memory, even just because I wasn't realizing initially that you're going into all the spaces.
Oh yeah.
It's like I was picturing a walk outside alongside all of these, key spaces along Massachusetts Avenue that, like you said, but the fact that there's, work and learning and, coming in with humility to maybe a space you've never been in and people to extend that hospitality to so many different visitors who, might not be familiar with this, not just the space, but the traditions and the religious values that are upheld by these different faith communities. So I think that's tremendous work that you've been involved in and that you're already like hyped up for this next one coming up in 2025. Is this a place that has become a sense of community for you even?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a broad sense, I consider it part of my community, not like my only community, of course, but every year that I go, it's like hundreds of people. And I know like 99% of whom like I'm not going to know personally, but I know because it's like such a, locally based organization, like these people are all my neighbors. And we all have this like shared interest and belief in coming together across faiths. So it's a community based on that. And, the more that I go, like I do see like folks that I know, whether it's like just like friends or folks from my university or like IFC staff. So yeah, definitely part of my community. But I'm part of a lot of communities, like my alma mater, my hometown, my synagogue, and kind of like more, I guess, like nebulous like definitions of community, like the queer community and the disability community, like at large.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different ways that I think about it.
Well, I'm so glad you identified and named all of those other key places that you find a home in, key organizations, groups, and just larger umbrella sense of community. When you come back to this event every year, is it something that you're also participating in throughout the year? Like, are there still beyond the walk being a key moment? Are there other events? Are there other gatherings? Or is it basically at this point, the walk is your involvement?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It's kind of like their bread and butter is the Unity Walk. They do have some programming that goes on. They have like a yearly award ceremony. I frankly don't usually go to that, also because it's like kind of a donor event and I don't make like donor event kind of money.
Sure. Hear you there.
And they also do like religious workshops and trainings. And since I don't like run an organization, I don't really like do those. But they certainly do stuff year round.
Those are some of the other things they're offering, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And how many people attend the walk? I'm just curious. Do you have a ballpark figure?
At least 500.
Oh, wow.
It also depends on the weather. Like if it gets rained out, it's going to be less. But people still show up. Like a couple years ago, it like rained pretty bad, and like there were still like a couple hundred people there. So it varies year to year.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I might have to show up to one of these as well, just being Baltimore to DC. It's so great hearing about it. Thank you for all of that, Nicole. Let's hear from May. Yeah, I'm so curious what the group or organization you want to uplift is.
It's a kind of pretty different from what Nicole just talked about,
Great.
but the group I wanted to talk about was Model United Nations, which which I started doing in high school. I mean, this sophomore year. It was a new club at my school, and a teacher who kind of just did it for fun was like, I'll do Model United Nations at the school. So me and a couple of my friends and a bunch of like guys who just wanted to go to New York, we all kind of like came together to do Model UN. And I think that this organization is really incredible, especially like as someone who's going in with very low expectations. I kind of assumed like my picture of it was a bunch of like kids with braces, like sitting around a table, if that makes sense, like classic movie. Like,
I'm picturing
but then I
that.
went and it was the New York one, which is one of the biggest, and there was kids from over 70 countries.
Whoa.
Yes, there was over, I think, 15,000 people there in one hotel. It was incredible. There was, maybe 15,000, like 10,000. And there was a lot of people.
Yeah.
You like couldn't go up the elevators from all over the world. It's just incredible because every conference, every meeting that you have, it's like building your self-confidence and talking, thinking about worldly matters, and also just like meeting new people and being social with people from all over. I think it's a very like good thing to do as someone my age, to get to know about the world around you, how things work, and especially like problem solving skills and just like social skills and meeting new people from different areas.
Oh, it's so rad. And Nicole got hyped about it too when you said Model UN. Did you do Model UN growing up, Nicole?
Yeah, it was when I was thinking about like what organization I wanted to talk about, it was literally between IFC or Model UN.
Whoa! So yes, different, but there's still some like y'all are tracking on some similar passions and places that you've been involved here. So May, break it down how it actually works, because some people, if they're not familiar with it, if their own high school didn't have a chapter like this, what does your week to week, month to month commitment look like throughout the year?
Okay, so a lot of schools take this very seriously. There are some schools who like prepare every day of the year for this. They want to win everything. Their groups are like super competitive. But the teacher who took this up in our school, she knew nothing about it. So we were actually very unprepared going there. We met once Wednesday mornings. I actually became captain, but not because I was super good. It's just because I was like, can I be captain?
You're willing,
and so then
yes.
And then the teacher was like, yeah. And she's one of my favorite teachers, but she's a little like all over the place. So we did a lot of like videos and random exercises. There was a lot of like making up speeches, like on the fly, kind of just like out of your head. She give you a prompt to argue for, and then you have to like gain people for support. But then at the conference itself, it's usually around 3 to 5 days, and you meet a lot of people. There's usually some sort of opening ceremony where the people leading the conferences, usually young adults, a lot of the times college students, they will introduce themselves. You will get put into a different, or before you go, you'll get put into a different like organization in the Model United Nations, like in real life, like UNESCO, the Drug Council, the Natural Stuff Council, etc., etc. My favorite was UNESCO. That was a really big council. And you have to put together a position paper, like your country, what your country is, what their position is on this topic, what they would do to solve different things in it. And you apply that, and that's kind of like your building blocks off of the actual conferences, which are usually, they're pretty long. They can last from like 3 to like 5 hours, honestly. Very long periods of time where you're sitting inside a room and giving speeches to many people about things that you're trying to solve in your country's ideas, and like gain people to join your idea, and also work with other ones to make a cohesive idea that can pass and everyone can vote on, that could then become a law. or would in real life. And the interesting thing is, usually at the end of the conference, the very last day, everyone votes on the different ideas that have become like ideas, usually like there's 3 sections. And sometimes none of them pass. And it's very interesting because a lot of the times it's because we're all like on our sides. We're like, we don't want you to pass because like our idea is the best. And it like, I feel like that teaches a lot about the real world. It like from an outsider's point of view, you could think, why not just like make all of these ideas pass? It'd be so easy for world leaders to like fix this, this, and this. But there's a lot that goes into that. And it's very interesting to learn about that too. But yeah. And then there's a closing ceremonies, a dance, and then everyone goes their way.
Oh, even a dance. I didn't know about that part. That was news to me. So well described for someone who's like never heard of Model UN. How big is the group at your school?
The group at my school. Okay, so the first year it was like 25 people, so not a huge group because it was the first year.
That actually seems bigger than I was expecting, though. Okay.
The second year, we got a lot of people to join because me and my friend James, we were like, we have to get people to join this amazing club because our whole group got very close while we were there. We were like all around the city doing things, going to dances, staying out till like 2 a.m., stuff like that. And it's also just like bonding with other people your age and your school. And so we got 58 people to join, but only 4 people could go. I think it was to the DC conference. So yeah, and I'm hoping next year we can get maybe 60.
Whoa, that's a big goal. And I think you might be able to do it. So everyone who's in the club goes on the trip.
40 people are allowed to go on the trip.
40 people are allowed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So is there a favorite memory that like, it sounds like, you're referring to a few different cool moments, but is there something that really stands out to you?
Okay. So far I've been to 2 big conferences, one in DC where you are, Nicole. The one in New York, my best memory was probably I met some Italian girls in my group and we became close friends and we just like chatted and chatted and chatted and we ended up all going out together one night to get matcha. And it was just a really fun experience because I got to know them all and chat with them all and walk around the city with them. And another really good experience was in the DC conference. Me and my friends, like my school group, we went and walked around a lot of the big monuments in DC, like the big tower thing, the Abraham Lincoln statue. We walked a lot and it was pouring rain, so everyone was soaked. But it was just really enjoyable to walk with everyone for such a long time and chat. A lot of my best memories are just social memories, getting to know people and know different places. Yeah,
it sounds like the space in between, like not always, the key Model UN moments that you're preparing for, but like the ways that the experience allows you to have these new conversations and connections with people that you otherwise would not get to encounter, let alone hang out with. So it's building social connections, making you just more of like a globally minded person. It's building your self-confidence, like you said. And, is it really become a part of your identity in a way? Like throughout your high school experience, do you see yourself different because of your involvement in Model UN?
I honestly do think so. I think a lot of the people who joined the program at my school, we were all kind of hesitant going in. We didn't know what was going on. And a lot of us just joined for the trip. But coming out of it, I think it's definitely become part of my identity because I've always been someone who enjoys public speaking. I enjoy like making up stuff to say to people. I really like arguing and coming up with like ways to convince people of stuff. So going up, writing speeches and telling everyone like in your own tone, in your voice, I think it really has helped build confidence and also made me realize that like this is something I enjoy. I do like talking to all these people. I like the excitement of it. I like putting purpose behind it. I like it when we can all come together and make ideas to try and help situations. So yeah, I do think it's become part of my identity. Also, it's helped me definitely further in public speaking.
Clearly, yeah. Even just the way you're, confidently speaking on this form of public speaking. Yes, it's like pre-recorded, but it's going out in a public format. I hear that from you. I see that in you. anything else you want to say about Model UN? This has been so fun to hear you describe it. And the fact that Nicole almost shared this as an example too feels extra cool in this conversation.
Well, I just think that it's definitely something that more people should try it out because it's a school club, but I feel like a lot of the time people will only join for like college credit or because it looks good on different applications, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's something that people should join for like for social aspects, for public speaking, for like learning to like talk with people, like and put yourself out there and really like thinking all this stuff. I think that it's just a very valuable organization that people could be a part of and you learn a lot. And yeah.
Well, kudos to your teacher that she would, give it a go. The fact that it didn't otherwise exist at your school and she was willing to start something new, and you've clearly benefited from it so much, you and your peers. And the fact that it's this growing program, even when it's just a few years old at your high school, speaks a lot to the value of it. So maybe there's other educators, people in their school that want to explore starting a chapter if it doesn't exist on their campus. But yeah, just that you're even encouraging other people listening to say, hey, give this a go. It might be a place that you can find a sense of connection and confidence in your own school environment. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. But it kind of goes back to what Nicole already previewed for us. I am curious if you identify and how you identify as being spiritual or religious. And then does that sense of spirituality impact your involvement in this organization? So however you define spirituality, does like having a sense of meaning, having a sense of purpose, having a sense of community that we've briefly talked about, do those sort of key aspects that often people get through religion and spirituality, do those connect with this? Are they separate for you? How would you describe all of that? And Nicole, I'll just cue you up to go first on this one.
Yeah. So in terms of like self-identification as like spiritual or religious, it's kind of complicated. So I'm converting to Judaism. In my day-to-day, I live a pretty secular life. And I would describe myself personally as more like philosophical than I would like spiritual or religious at this point. But at the same time, I see that like within like a rich tradition of Jewish philosophy. So they're kind of like intertwined. I'm not like completely secular, but I'm not a super religious person either. But I think like the organization that I was talking about, IFC, is like very much tied to my like spiritual or religious like becoming. I realized that I wanted to convert to Judaism, or like, I guess I had been thinking about it for months before that, but I guess I really realized when I was working there. I think a big reason for that is because working at the Interfaith Council like opened me up to other interfaith spaces where I had like even more like connection across faiths. There was another organization that I found through IFC called Abrahamic House. Look them up too. They're absolutely fantastic, wonderful humans here in DC. And
all
they
the
have
Abrahamic faith traditions, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so they have a Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and sometimes Baha'i fellow all live together like in the same house, and they have like day jobs, but they also do like community programming like every month. They're also really wonderful, and that was where I experienced my first Shabbat, which was really, like a formative experience for me. And I think in general, like being surrounded by and learning more about different faith traditions, like opened me up to like questioning my own. I think because I saw that like there are so many, like I think all religions in one way or another like are primarily concerned with some of like life's big metaphysical questions, like why are we here? Who put us here? Did someone put us here? Do we have a purpose here? And seeing that there are so many different answers to that kind of made me realize like I don't have to lock myself into one that like doesn't really resonate with me and my soul, like just because that was how I was raised. So that whole process of becoming happened while I was there.
Oh, that's so significant. I mean, like so much of who you are was already there, but it unearthed more of it for you, just putting you in these types of conversations to be more open to interrogating, it sounds like, parts of faith that had been handed to you and really finding the home that makes the most sense for you. And conversion is no small thing. So I know it's something that you've had to probably think through a lot, process a lot, make a lot of decisions about. And it sounds like you have other people that you can process this with, that it's not just you on an island figuring it out by yourself, but that it's connected you, I imagine, with other faith leaders, with other ways of being Jewish in the world. Like you said, even just the rich tradition of philosophy connected with Judaism, and where you can be your secular self, to, use the same word you described, and still be deeply connected to faith practices, that they aren't incongruent, that you can find out like who I am, the way I see the world. There is a place for me to live this out with others who have similar ways of operating, or similar questions they're asking. That is what we hope for every young person, to find a place of belonging and connection, whether or not that's in a faith tradition. I'm always rooting for young people to find that place where they can be at home, and it sounds like you're finding that. So the fact that you can say it's complicated, yes, I hear that from you, and I feel like you also are really rooted. Like, I don't hear you just like, I don't know what I think, I'm untethered. I hear you really finding your place, your people. And it sounds like IFC, the Interfaith Council, and this Abrahamic House have been key components of that. Are there certain leaders too that you'd lift up that have been parts of this journey, parts of this uncovering?
Like specific, like shout outs.
Have there been key faith leaders that you've been able to process with along the way or throughout this?
Yeah, I would say my rabbi at Washington Hebrew congregation, Rabbi Schmelkin, has been a really big help in this process. I'm definitely not the best conversion student. I will be the first to admit it. It's been a long and slow process, kind of because of me, but she's always been there for me, like regardless of like what I'm going through in my life, or how often I show up or don't show up, or how I'm showing up in those spaces. I always feel like there's like she's there for all of it, and has been like a really big help in like guiding me along in my conversion with things that like I'm passionate about, whether it's like books or assignments and stuff like that, like really guiding it to like things that she thinks will resonate with my life based on like what she knows about me. So that's very much appreciated.
I love that. I mean, that's what Springtide hopes our tools, our research and resources are helping all different faith leaders from all different traditions, is to be that exact source that you described your rabbi as the she's steady. That she, even when you're figuring things out, or like you said, maybe the process is more drawn out from just where you're at in life, that she's like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm with you. I'm listening. I'm respecting who you are, where you're at. We're in dialogue together. This is your place. That kind of steadiness, that kind of presence, that's not putting pressure or expectation. That's just like, I'm here. That kind of accompaniment, some traditions would say, is what so much of our research shows that young people really want to see in a faith leader. So I'm loving that you could uplift that as an extended example from this. Thank you for all of that, Nicole. May, for you, do you define as being a spiritual person, and has Model UN in any way impacted your sense of spirituality or meaning making?
I definitely am a spiritual person. I think very spiritually, in the sense that I believe that there's something like more than just this world, if that makes sense. I think that when we die, we won't just end. And I do believe that there is like a meaning to life. There is something going on that's just a little bit like not physical or tangible or something that we see all the time, but it's there. I firmly believe that. And I've been raised Christian from when I was very young and on. And I do believe in a lot of Christian ideals, but I would say I also do lead a pretty secular day-to-day life. I do not practice. I do not read the Bible before doing things. My family prays, and my grandparents are also very spiritual, in the Christian sense. And I do believe in a God, but yeah, I like to think about it a lot. I like to think that there's something that created this. I like the ideals in Christianity that treat your neighbors as yourself, be kind to others no matter who they are. The most important thing in life is to love others like you would love your own sibling. I think that's very important. And I think a lot of people take Christian scripture and turn it into something that it's not in order to exclude people, to hate on people, etc., etc. And I don't like that at all. So I really like to live by loving others. Yeah, like a neighbor. I think that's very important. As for Model UN, I don't think it necessarily boosted my sense of spirituality, except for in the sense of people getting together and really interacting and trying to solve different problems. I think that's it's people coming together to me is something that lifts up my spirit. And I think that just in everyone's day-to-day interactions, that's something more than just yourself, and anything more than yourself I kind of think of as spiritual. And in my opinion, kind of our purposes as humans is to interact with others and explore, not just explore the world, but explore ideas, explore different perspectives, explore in interactions. I think those are that's what we're meant to do. That's what fulfills us.
It's really cool to hear you describe the sense of connecting to something bigger than yourself, and that you experienced that through Model UN. Because that is how a lot of people define religion. I'm not saying that Model UN is your religion. I'm just saying that, which maybe for some people it is. We honor that if that's their truth. But that just the sense you get from collaborating with others, working across differences to find a common solution, if that's a fair way of describing what some of these sessions look like, that sense of hey, we're working together for something bigger than all of us is a powerful symbol of what community often is for people, or what religion often feels like for people. And so just that there's some parallel themes that you can draw out. But yeah, I just appreciate the depth you even gave of where you're at in your own process of discerning what it looks like to be spiritual, where you're taking a lot of value from your Christian traditions that you've been raised with, and where you're expanding in the questions you're asking. It's really beautifully put.
I've been in a youth group for a while, but I don't go very often. It's just something that my parents are a part of a church, so while I'm there, I'll go to that. But we've explored a lot of different religious spaces as well as part of a confirmation process. We went to a mosque, we went to the synagogue, we went to a lot of different places, which was really interesting to learn about the different religions. And what I took from that too is that I don't think any of them are right or wrong personally. I think that everything has something good to teach. So I don't particularly believe or disbelieve in any certain religion. I like to kind of take a lot from different ones. I've been learning a little bit about Buddhism too recently, a lot about just not thinking about yourself too much, thinking about nature and being at peace with what's around you. I think that is an amazing thing to think about. And yeah, I think learning about other religions too is just really interesting, because I think you can take something from everything and just make yourself a better person and think more about the world. And I think by learning about all that, you can learn more about other people and learn more about what's around you, and just fulfill yourself more. I mean, that's what religion is, and a lot of people finding something other than yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you're speaking about what so much of what Springtide has studied about, Gen Z and emerging generations when it comes to having deep respect for traditions beyond the one that maybe they received, and finding different aspects that they want to really learn from and be a student of, and bring it to bear in their own life, that sometimes isn't a single path, not a single box to check when it comes to faith. So really, really glad to hear both of the examples you brought. I'm wondering, just to wrap the conversation, if you could think about organizations broadly, or if you want to think even about the specific group you highlighted, what would you offer as a tip or recommendation for different leaders to think about ways they can most effectively connect with and involve young people in their work?
I can go ahead because I got some thoughts. This is
Awesome.
actually like less informed by my experience with IFC. They always have pretty strong youth turnout, and they have programming specifically for young people. So this is not really about them. But I would say like my biggest ask / piece of advice is make young people feel genuinely welcome in your spaces and make them like want to show up again. I've been in a lot of spaces where I was the youngest person, like by a long shot, like the only person like under 30, or the only person like in my very early 20s. And kind of three things can happen. One is that I'm seen as like fresh blood that can like take on a bulk of administrative tasks on behalf of the real adults with real jobs and families, despite the fact that I also work 40 hours a week.
Absolutely, yes.
Two is I have to sort of like age myself up and be like less of myself, or I'm ignored entirely in favor of like longtime older members that have like established connections or relationships in the community, which in turn makes it hard to build new connections and relationships. And when I decide how I want to spend my free time, like after everything is over during the week, after work, usually I do not want to be in spaces that make me feel like this. I think this is particularly salient advice for religious organizations and institutions that are like kind of scratching their heads right now as to why there's so much like youth attrition within their attendance. It can be really difficult, especially for like young adults, to form new connections when they're not like going with a family or like have it like it's very hard sometimes to like just show up as you as a young adult in some spaces like this. So really welcome in and celebrate the young people that do decide to turn up.
Who they are right then is what I'm hearing from you. Not that they have to like, oh, I need to be less of who I am to try to enter this conversation, or, oh, they're young, so they must have all this energy. I'm going to put all this responsibility and burden on them to carry things forward. I think the three examples you highlighted, I've seen those scenarios play out. I've experienced some of them myself at different points. And yeah, it's not like I want to show up here again. So if people really want young people to be involved, there has to be space for letting them be their full authentic selves, who they are right then, and not placing undue responsibility that isn't fair or even equitable to the rest of the members of the group or the organization. So really, really well put. Thank you for your thoughts. May, what tip, recommendation would you have? You've already said you think young people should get more involved in Model UN, but is that what you want to speak to, or broadly, whatever your input is, we're happy to hear it.
Well, I really agree with what Nicole said. She kind of stole some of the words right out of my mouth. I think that organizations should really like take people as they are. And I think one really important thing is like kind of know the generation. Like don't just like fit everyone into one body. Like every generation is different, growing up in different standards, especially like Gen Z with like so much technology versus like a lot of older generations who like boomers who did not grow up with that. Like we're not the same. And a lot of us like share ideas, share ideals, but it's like we grow up in different situations with different like events that happen. And I think internalizing that and like knowing that is very important so that people don't feel ostracized no matter the generation. And also if it's a smaller organization, like getting to know people, like using like what they're good at, like someone joins and not being like, oh, you can do this. Like, take what they're interested in, what they're good at, and take that into account when you're with them. Also, like, I think excitement at new people, like, really, like, welcoming them, but then also, like, being just excited for them. And then also one thing, like, kind of on another subject, is just, like, making very clear what the different organizations, like, have to give, because, like, what they can do, not for you, but like what tools what you can gain from the organization. I think that kind of stuff is very valuable to at least people my age. I think when I'm like joining different organizations, looking at things, I want to know, like, what can I do here? What will I gain from this? Like, how will I become a better person? How can I, like, strengthen from this? I think that's something a lot of people like to know, and sometimes it can be unclear when joining things. And being upfront about that, I think, would be very valuable. And also having, like, exciting things to, like, come back to, like events, and, like, especially now when people's attention spans are very short. I think that that's something to take into account, because a lot of people, for instance, aren't going to as many religious services, et cetera, because simply enough, I just don't think a lot of people can sit through a lot of stuff a lot of the time. So thinking about how long people can, like, hang on to, like, an idea, like what might, like, interest someone, excite someone, it is a dilemma that a lot of people, like, are struggling attention-wise, but it's also something that I think people will have to take into account, especially now.
So many good nuggets shared there. But the one I really want to pull out just to wrap this conversation is the idea that it needs to be reciprocal. Like, what I heard from both of the organizations that you highlighted is there's things you each meaningfully contribute. You've impacted these groups and you've gotten a lot out of them. And that's what I mean about the reciprocity, that there's an exchange, that it's not just young people are here to take, or young people are here to give, but that there's this exchange between all members. And all these conversations I'm having, I hear that highlighted directly and indirectly from young people, that they feel like the organizations that have had such a positive impact in their life is because they know they've gotten to feed into them, contribute, and they can really identify the key things they've gotten as a result. And yeah, just that it's a two-way street. So how can you create spaces that really allow for that? I heard that from you so much there, May. Thank you. Thank you both. This was a really interesting conversation. I so enjoyed hearing both of your examples. I just appreciate who you both are in the world, genuinely. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, May.
Visit springtideresearch.org to learn more about our research and resources, centering the perspectives and experiences of young people ages 13 to 25. As a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, Springtide Research Institute is committed to listening to young people and sharing accessible social scientific research along with actionable insights. Visit our website to find ways to support our work and discover ways that we can support yours. You can find and follow us on social media at We Are Springtide. If you're enjoying 13 to 25, we invite you to rate, review, and share the podcast with a friend. And we'd love to share a conversation with you. Send your questions or comments to info@springtideresearch.org. Today's show was produced by Marte Aboagye, audio mixing by Andy Palmer, opening and closing by Amy Chow, and original music by Christian Unthank, who was 14 when he produced this track. Special thanks to the guests featured in today's conversation and all the young people between 13 to 25 whose insights and perspectives make our research possible. Thanks for listening and for supporting the teens and 20-somethings in your own life.